I'm Katie McGuire, and I'm here to show you how to make my family's tried and true recipes from McGuire's kitchen to yours. So for this video, I felt like I couldn't make a video series based on my family's recipes without making the Irish classic, which is a shepherd's pie. It's a staple at McGuire's. It is on the weekly menu, so I think if you go every Monday, you can get the shepherd's pie for a special price. So first, I have 2 pounds of ground beef. I'm going to brown that in my Dutch oven. So you wanna make sure that this pot is big enough for all of the good stuff that we're gonna be adding to it. Okay, so right now you're going to want to brown your 2 pounds of ground beef in your Dutch oven. After you get it a nice brown color, you're going to grab your meat, strain the fat, leave it in your strainer in your sink while you bring the Dutch oven back over. While this is browning, you're going to want to take your potatoes that you have, peel them, dice them, put them in boiling water, and that's gonna be the mash that goes on top of the filling that we're making right now. Okay, so right now I just strained my 2 pounds of ground beef, and I'm going to use the same pot that I cooked the ground beef in and put a half a stick of butter in. I'm using Kerrygold. You can use whatever butter you like, but I think Kerrygold is the best butter around. While the butter's melting, I'm gonna get my basic mirepoix, which is carrots, onion, and celery. And once my butter melts down a little bit, I'll add those ingredients in, sweat the veggies out. I'm gonna add in my diced onion, celery, and then we've got our carrots. And we wanna make those a nice translucent color. We're basically doing this just to flavor the beef a little bit more. Now while those are cooking, I'm gonna grab my pot of diced potatoes and drain those in the sink. All right, so now we are gonna put our strained diced potatoes back into the pot and then bring it back over to the burner. At this point, we are going to add heavy cream and 1 stick of butter. Might sound a little bit excessive on the butter, but I promise it tastes good, and you can never have too much butter, right? And here's our heavy cream. You wanna stir this around, and then I'm also gonna mash them and then let them cool so that you can put it in a piping bag at home. You don't have to do that step and put it into a piping bag, but I just think it looks nicer on the shepherd's pie, and it kind of just shows that you did that extra step. Okay, so now that we have our mashed potatoes in a good stopping point, we are going to check on our vegetables, and they look like they're nice, translucent, nice and sweaty. And so now we're going to add a little bit of garlic and flour. So we got our flour, I'm mixing that around, and it's kind of just to thicken it up a little bit. And then you don't want to do obviously all of this garlic, but I'm going to do like half a tablespoon. All right, so we've got our flour and our garlic sauteed in there. And now we are going to add our beef broth, pour that directly in. Then we have our spices. So I mentioned before in one of my previous videos that we use McGuire's steak shake in literally everything, and that is no different with the shepherd's pie. So we're gonna be adding in the steak shake and then a little bit of nutmeg to really give it a nice flavor. So we'll give that a nice stir. All right, so our beef has been drained. I'm gonna go grab that over here in the sink. And we are going to add that directly back into our mirepoix that we've created over here. Give it a nice stir. We have our little veggies and base going mixed in with the meat. And from this point, we're looking really good with the filling. We have a nice flavor going, tastes delicious. Okay, so now that our meat is done, it is time to fill the pie. So I'm going to grab my container. You can do any size you want. I've done it in a larger cast iron skillet before, but I prefer to make my own personal mini pie this time. So that's what I'm gonna use. And this is about the size that we use in the restaurant as well. Put as much meat as you want, but just know that you are going to be adding a country medley of vegetables on top of this meat. I like a lot in mine, so I'm gonna leave mine about almost to the top, I would say. And then I'm going to grab my vegetable medley. Now, you can use whatever vegetables you want in your shepherd's pie. You can add lima beans, you can add anything that sounds good. If you understand the recipe, I mean, just go with what you like. I like corn, green beans, more carrots, and peas in mine. So that's what I decided to go with. We are just going to pour a nice little layer on top. I'm gonna grab my cheddar cheese. Now I do love cheese. I wish I didn't love cheese as much as I did, but I do. So I'm gonna go pretty cheesy on this layer. So I have my nice cheddar cheese layer. And last but not least, we have our mashed potatoes in a piping bag. I got this piping bag at Michael's. You can use any piping bag you want. My only recommendation when working with mashed potatoes in a pipe bag is make sure that your mashed potatoes have cooled off, because you will burn yourself whenever it's seeped out of the bag, because it always comes out at the end. And you wanna kind of move fast whenever you're doing this, because the slower you go, the more mashed potato is gonna come out of it, and you don't really need that much mashed potato. And like I said, you don't have to use a piping bag when you're doing this. I personally just think it gives it a nice touch, and this is exactly what we do in the pub. All right, so I've officially finished mashed potatoing my shepherd's pie, and now it goes in the oven at 350 degrees till it's bubbly at the top. So I'd say about 10 minutes, but definitely keep an eye on it. I like to give it a nice charred brown color at the top and kind of crisp the potato on top as well. But it is your shepherd's pie, like I said, so whatever you feel, go for it. All right, let's check on our pie. And it's looking pretty. We've got a nice brown char on top of it, which is very important when it comes to shepherd's pie. Let's move this stuff out of the way. And voila. Now all we have to do is add some parsley, and you now know how McGuire's makes their traditional shepherd's pie. Here you go.